welcome to the Purposefully Clear podcast. In this podcast, we're going to be telling stories about direct application of tools, processes, systems that lead to validating outputs for students and teachers. Systems change, if you will, through culturally validating pedagogy and leadership. Come along for the clear journey. Excited you're here.
This is the Purposefully Clear podcast. This is number 15, episode 5 of 6 with our guest Billy Chang. The podcast is hosted by Dr. Rev Hillstrom at the Sophia Hotel on March 1st, 2026.
All right, 5 of 6. Hard to believe we're already there in San Diego, making that happen. Looking at skill development, talking about the complications of systems. Think about this in your own system. What knowledge do you need? And how are you going to convert that to skill to get on the same page? Join us as we're being purposefully clear together.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of that also goes to, more importantly, like what patterns kids have constructed cognitively to process the information they receive, just as our teachers, right?
Yeah.
So when I think of skill, I think more about like the exposure to those patterns where like now if I receive a piece of information, I know what to do with it, right? So like when I teach ELA, I'm not going to teach it the same way I taught math. There's going to be different strategies that I might use. A lot of strategies might be very different. But in math, for example, like I might have kids illustrate more to see if they actually conceptually understand those mathematical concepts. But these are patterns that we have to build into kids, right? And like once they pick up these patterns, the skill really is, I got to match the pattern with the knowledge to produce a product. The same process with our teachers, right? I don't think a lot of our teachers have been given the autonomy to be able to match that strategy to the knowledge, right? Or been allowed to practice that skill to the effect of now they're very efficient and very selective and intentional in like which skills or what strategies they choose to teach which content, right? And that's something that's been lacking in our system.
Well, that's the other side of teaching that I'm talking about,
Right.
because what we created
Right.
in systems is a scientific method for us to input and expected output. And a lot of times the output doesn't match our expectation.
Yeah, absolutely.
To your point earlier, but we have to be clear about the expectations, right? And
We absolutely have to.
So then there's that level of confusion in terms of what are we even doing? So then it becomes a 9 to 5 and collect the paycheck.
And I think it also has to do with like what we were talking about when we came up on the elevator is like you like the more people you have in the room, the harder it is to make a decision, right? And then the harder it is to like keep focus on the discussion and the conversation. Whether it's a professional learning, whether it's a conversation about student data, whether it's a conversation about change, strategies, pedagogy. The three of us can have a very focused conversation, like throw 5 more people in the room and like we can talk all night and not, have this podcast come to an end, right? Because it's just so hard, so easy to get distracted when there's so many different ideas and discussion. I know you even brought the conversation up earlier of like we just can't get on the same page, right?
So what's really sitting below the surface is a confusion between what it means to teach and what it means to instruct. So we have all these replicable processes, right, that lead us to replicable outcomes. That at best is instruction. So there's a mental model that we have to work on if we're going to be able to interrupt the banking theory of pedagogy and move to this idea of culturally validating pedagogy. That is that below the surface component of conviction that needs to change. You mentioned the variety of languages and from Hmong to Spanish, and we even talked a little bit about Cherokee, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And how that changes. When you think about your teachers' thought and language, and the knowledge and or skill that we need to change or impact the process, the system change around understanding language and thought, and being the protector of learning, for your teachers? Because I'm going to bring one question left for us to end with. But
Absolutely.
if you can just speak to that a little bit, either of you, and then I'll leave us with just a couple final thoughts here. All right, gentlemen, please.
So I think in any organization, there's a way of speaking, there's a lingo or language that's spoken. And for somebody like yourself, or for myself particularly, coming from the outside in, it takes a long time to learn that language within that organization. And so for teachers, that language is spoken on a daily, so they understand. But our kids, they don't speak that language, right? And so how do we get it translated from the teacher to the students so that everybody's speaking the same language? I mean, there's so many acronyms in this organization that I still don't even know what they are or what they mean. And then so when it comes to thoughts, my thoughts around that is completely different from somebody who's been in the system the whole life, and they speak the language. So I have different thoughts. Our teachers have different thoughts about how they want to impact students, but because they've been directed to interact with students in a particular way, based on research or whatever, their thoughts are limited in terms of creativity, in terms of the autonomy that we talked about, right?
Right.
And so all of those things then create barriers for how impactful teachers can be. I mean, we know they're expert, they have the knowledge, they know how to impact student achievement in the content area or in the grade level or whatever, but because of these protocols that systems put in place, it's limiting to the capacity of the ability to think or to have thoughts around instruction or teaching or pedagogy, right?
Right on.
And so part of the work then is how do we eliminate some of those barriers so that we can truly move into a process of creating change that's going to benefit the kids in front of us, right? And not this idea of, hey, this is America and this is how you're going to be educated and you're going to be an American in this particular way, right? Well, I can be an American. I mean, I'm a war veteran.
Yes, you
right?
are.
I have a medal to prove that,
Yes, you do.
right? But because of what I look like, does that make me less American because I don't, behave in a particular way that I'm supposed to be, right? And so we have to hold those conversations and understand from that perspective that the individual thoughts can be put into the same shared space for common understanding so that we can get to that through line that Tor was talking about in terms of communication. Until that happens, it's like there's no value in my voice in your space, right? And so then same thing with teachers. If teachers have no value in their voice in the space of the system, then we're not going to get the product we want. I mean, Tor spoke passionately about we got to get the feedback. We got to get the input from the people that's in the trenches. And when we don't allow for those individual thoughts to occur in those spaces, we're not going to be able to make the changes that we speak about all the time.
I mean, like they're very critical consumers. Like I'd say, like a lot of my teachers are very critical consumers, and like when you change a learning target to like a learning intention, now they want to know like what's the difference, right? And then that like goes into like the planning, the deconstructing of the standards, and it's a whole process that puts additional cognitive load on our teachers that may not be necessary.
Hey, thanks for watching the podcast. Those of you interested and have heard, we are offering free CU for new subscribers. So if you're a new subscriber and would benefit from that, please check this out as part of our Clear Renewal work. There's a whole lot more to talk about down that path, and you can learn more by contacting Nan Ureko because we have a whole suite of opportunities to continue to support you. I appreciate you. Thanks again. Wadu. Until we meet again.
Hey, Jason here. Welcome to the Producer's Corner. This episode has reminded me just how important it is to teach differently than you learned. I was taught rote. I mean, just here are the facts, memorize, and put them back on the paper, and then you get an A. I'm really good at that. If I write stuff down, I memorize it. So even before, I know this is going to make me sound old, before Google Maps and Waze and whatever, I would look it up on MapQuest. If you remember what that is, you got to love this video. MapQuest, and I would just write down the directions on a Post-it or whatever I had laying around, and then I would just leave the Post-it because I wrote it down. I knew it. So rote style learning was easy for me. Everybody learns a slightly different way, and I think the old ways should be done. Even in the 5 years at my small charter school, I've been amazed at some of the creative responses you can get when you allow, when you open yourself up, when you push yourself as a teacher to let go of that way that you learned. We need something new. All right, here are my links. You know the drill. We'll see you for the final episode in just a week. Get revved up.
So some of you know my mentors, some of you don't. One of the probably most influential people in my life has been Dr. Rose Chu. I'm all fired up because of you, friend. I'm sitting back thinking through the memories and the walks that we've gone and the fights that we've had in society and stood by each other. And you know what? It's hard to find anybody as true as you've been in my life. So I just want to say thank you, Rose. I'm all fired up because of you.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Intercultural Innovations Incorporated. Director and producer is Dr. Rev Hillstrom. Producer and editor is Jason Eldridge, with graphics by Barbie Hillstrom and Nan Ureko. Original music by Ben Lockett, Jason Eldridge, and Dr. Rev Hillstrom. Intercultural Innovations Incorporated 2026. For any information, bright spots, or links from this episode, email jason.impacti3@gmail.com.